In this first module, you will learn what mining is all about. So what's mining? Well, as a geologist who dabbles in the dark art of science, I asked an engineer friend who thinks in straight lines to give me a simple definition of what mining is. And this is it. The precondition is find a deposit of a valuable resource lying around available and as close to the surface as possible and close to a major civilized area. Make sure you own the mineral rights and that no government type can tell you otherwise. Then you do the following. You dig a hole, not too deep, in the general vicinity of the resource. Don't let the hole collapse. That will cause paperwork. Don't dig out too much soil for too little resource. That's expensive. Dig out resource, dig out some more resource, and when the hole becomes too deep, sell it. And repeat the process from the precondition. Mining, in a nutshell, as explained by an engineer. Of course, mining is not quite that simple. And it is a process that takes you from early stage, flying a kite, doing lots of complex work, going through research and development and exploration, and if you're really lucky, the development of a project and mining, and ultimately the production of those resources. And the end game is wealth. So what's mining really about? Mining is about managing risk and maximizing value. And this is what we will talk about for the rest of this course. Here is where we want to end up, where we have a producing mine that is generating cash on the one end. However, it doesn't start there. It has a much less auspicious start. And if you follow on the slides, you will see a picture of a rugged foot on a rock. And you might look at that and say, so what? That doesn't look like much. And I'm afraid quite often this is where it starts. Something that doesn't look like much. The picture in your slides is in fact a historic one. It is the discovery site of the Lolo mine in Mali that belongs to Randgold Resources, and is the mine that really put that company on the map. And mining is about people with the vision and the dreams to go fly those kites, find these places and turn them to reality and to cash. Looking for a moment at the stages in the life of a mine, we start with prospecting, hopefully discovery, exploration, that hopefully leads to development and ultimately exploitation and processing, and finally rehabilitation and closure. I said before, it's an exercise in risk management. And if you look at the slide, you'll have this little step figure. Up the left is where risk is reduced, and you might question that. We'll come back to it. Going to the right is time, and as we're spending more resources and time, the value of our project starts increasing. So you might say, coming back to the risk, how can you say it's reducing? It should be getting bigger. Well, in a sense, in numbers, it is getting bigger. But in the big picture, it is getting smaller because we have a better understanding now of that risk, and so we can deal with it. So the major steps in the life of our project, first of all, acquire title. Now let me just say the numbers, the time numbers that you see on this graph are global averages. They can be shorter. They can also be a lot longer, depending on the jurisdiction where you're working and the size and nature of your projects. So acquiring title globally can take between 1 and 12 months. And I guess the extremes here is in British Columbia and Canada. If you have a credit card and an internet line, you can get title in a matter of seconds. You go online, you register, you put in the latitude and longitude of the area you want. If it's available, that program will tell you how much to pay. You put in your credit card number and they'll give you the license. Then the work starts. The other end of that spectrum is in some developing countries, for example, South Africa, DRC, various South American countries, Chile, Argentina. It can take a bit longer. And in the extreme, there are companies in South Africa, for example, that's been battling 5 years to get licenses. It's unfortunately how the cookie crumbles in the developing world. Assuming we've got the title thing out of the way and everything's working, the next phase broadly is exploration. It may include prospecting first, but we call it the exploration phase. And this typically runs for between 1 and 6 years, largely depending on how much money you've got and the complexity of your project. Following that, we will go into the feasibility or evaluation phase. And this is typically between 3 and 12 months. Again, longer if your project is complex and large and your money is tight. Upon success, you will step on to construction, developing a project. And that can take between 6 and 24 months nowadays, generally. And then you go into the final phase of operation. And in there, we include production and ultimately rehabilitation and closure. And it's a 3 to 20 year cycle.